Is this thing on? Hi everybody, welcome to my little den of music. I hope what I have to say goes out there and reaches somebody whom has struggled through some of the problems with music production and making your own original music as I have. In particular, the curse of being a perfectionist and reminding yourself over and over again that something is good enough and being able to move on. Before I get into that, why should you listen to me? Well, you probably shouldn't, but since we're on the topic, hi, I'm Josh. This is my YouTube channel. More recently, in the last 2 to 3 years, I've started to make my own original lo-fi beats and chill beats, and along the way, really had to take that leap of faith, and it's scary as hell. When you put something out there, you know people are going to judge what you stand for musically. Most people who are music producers at home, which is you're going to be a perfectionist. Otherwise, you're not going to spend 5 hours tweaking the timing of a hi-hat. Don't worry, I know what you're doing at 3 a.m. at night. I think the antidote to being a perfectionist is 2 words: good enough. I want to keep this advice very practical, so let me illustrate in a few different scenarios how good enough can really help you. The first scenario is right at the start when you're making a song. That's where it's less about mixing and mastering, a lot more about sound design, about the genesis of what the song is going to be, chord structure, melody, groove, tempo, feel, and vibe. In that stage of making your song, let's say you're in a scenario, it's a great Sunday afternoon, you're there, you're right in there, you're trying out a fantastic new chord part you have on your guitar or piano. And suddenly, as you're going through like all the kick sounds you have, you get stuck. You audition 20 different kick sounds and none of them sound right. You decide to fire up a synth and try to synthesize a kick sound. Doesn't sound right either. You go back to the first kick sound, you try to EQ it, or you try to add some reverb. Maybe you add an envelope filter to boost the attack transient, add a compressor, doesn't feel right. 4 to 5 hours later, you're still there. I think one of the key things to do in that scenario is find a sound that is less than perfect and tell yourself, if this is good enough to convey the idea, stop there and move on. And you'll be surprised at the number of times that you actually have a workable sound. I think one of the key things to realize, which I wish somebody told me sooner, is that there's no such thing as perfect. That perfect sound of whatever you're looking for is probably only an abstract idea in here. There is no sound in the world, there's no instrument part in the world, there is no vocal part in the world, there's no mix in the world that's perfect. It's all dependent on taste, on genre, what you're trying to achieve, who is your listener, and the context. Put down that desire to be perfect because it's not real and nobody knows what's perfect anyway, and just go with good enough. And guess what? 5 hours later, instead of struggling with that same kick sound, voila, you have a drum track, you have a guitar track, and maybe you even have a bass track. And at least you are 40% on your way to creating a new track. Once you get there, you can always go back again and tweak it a little bit more because you have a more complete idea. That approach to me has worked much better than just sitting on one element of a song and trying to make it perfect. And I think the power of saying good enough in that scenario, you end up with a much better idea of what your song is going to be, and you feel much more productive. You strike while the hammer is hot, while the creative juices are flowing, you get more done. And then even if you want to, you can go back and EQ the kick all you want, but at least you have a much fuller arrangement to play around with, and you know where you're going. The second scenario is a bit of the opposite, towards the end of the song making process. So you've got the song idea out and you want to mix and master your track. The bugbear called perfectionism comes and trolls you. It comes and sits on your shoulder and tells you that nothing sounds right. This song is bad, doesn't sound good, kick's not punchy enough, vocals are not coming through, the guitar sounds bad. And I think that's where, again, you have to tell yourself that if the mix and master is good enough to convey the musical idea and feeling that you want to convey, it is good enough. There is no such thing as perfect. One of the things I try to remember is that music is music is music. Good music is good music. Even though the music that we release out into the world goes through many filters, streaming services, social media, playlisting, curators, record labels, YouTube, good music will be good music. And that goes the same for the technical parts of making a song, like mixing and mastering. Good music will stand up for itself. And as long as your mix and master is good enough to convey the music and the beautiful feeling that you want to convey to the listener, it's more than good enough. That's perfect in my opinion. The third and the last way is nothing to do with songs at all. It's about how you feel about yourself as however you want to label yourself, as a musician, producer, vocalist, guitarist. You have to remind yourself constantly that you're good enough. Constantly feeling that you are not worthy enough to be heard is a surefire way to kill your creative ideas, and it is also a surefire way down a road where you will eventually give up. You can't continue in a healthy way if you keep on feeling like I'm not as good as so and so. I will never play like John Mayer or Tommy Emmanuel. I will never make a song as good as this. I will never be as good a vocalist as so and so. You are your most original version of you, and as long as you are true to the music that you want to make, that's the best version of you that you can possibly release out into the world. And I believe that the world needs to hear you, because everybody has a unique voice waiting to be heard, and that's something I really believe in. Right. So I hope you have a good day, guys, and I might, for my next video, I think I wanted to talk a bit about how I got into lo-fi producing and how I eventually made it onto a few, very luckily I made it onto Apple Music and Spotify editorial playlists. So that's something I want to talk about in case somebody is wondering, like I did when I first started out. Okay, bye.